Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. Today we'll hear from Shcherbyna. Anna is the founder and CEO of Remotivate, a remote recruitment agency helping online businesses find and hire international top-tier remote talent. With significant experience in operations and remote team building, Anna has led hundreds of successful hires for fast-growing companies around the world. Originally from Ukraine and now based in Barcelona, she's passionate about building intentional businesses, creating freedom through remote work, and helping founders scale with the right people in place. Anna, welcome to the Remotely Interested podcast.
Thank you so much, Mary, for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out today. I'm really very excited about our conversation about remote work. And I know you are a leading voice in this remote working sector. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to say, and also about Remotivate. I want as much information as possible about that. But let's start with your story. If you could tell our listeners the kind of work that you do and when you first began working remotely.
Yeah, absolutely. So remote work is definitely a huge passion of mine because it changed my life. I'll start with that.
Wow, what a start.
I was kind of stuck in a in-person job. This was back in 2017. I worked for 5 years in an in-person job, and for many reasons that don't want to take up, it would be a very long story to share that one. But I definitely was stuck where I was. I was living in Ukraine. I was kind of stuck in the job I was in, and I was craving for more. And very accidentally, somebody told me about Upwork. I registered, I started applying, I almost gave up. And at one point, I got an invitation to do a small job for an entrepreneur who was in Kiev at the time. And I took the job with so much enthusiasm, I can't even describe. I was like, I want something new, I want something different. And kind of to say the rest is history in the sense that that opened up the door to so many incredible opportunities. I pretty much got offered a job within a week, a full-time job at that company. It was an online position working for an Amazon business in helping them with hiring, projects, operations, a little bit of everything. And I started working, and within a few months, the owner said, "Hey, do you want to go to a conference in Thailand?"
Ooh.
Yeah. And I was like, yes. So for anyone listening, if somebody says, hey, there's this incredible opportunity for a conference or an incredible meeting of entrepreneurs or something like that, always say yes. And on the tiniest salary, I was like, yes. And I got my first salary, and my first salary, I bought my ticket to Indonesia, and then I never came back. In the sense that that started a whole journey of meeting entrepreneurs, meeting different people in the remote space, people running online businesses. And this propelled the question everyone kept asking, what do you do? And I said, well, I hire people online. I hire remote teams. And they're like, well, can you do that for me? Can you do that for me? And that's how the business was born. I had this story of being able to change my life because I took a remote work opportunity, and it became my dream to help others also create the life of their dreams through remote work. And hence I started Remotivate, and we remotivate people all the time in terms of their careers, in terms of their trajectory, and obviously run this recruiting business. There are other projects we're also working on, but yeah, that may be for a little bit later on.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great journey.
Yeah.
So were you working in recruitment before you accepted this Upwork role?
Yeah, I was doing operations and recruiting internationally, slightly different. It was more exchange programs. So it was still hiring people from one region, sending them abroad, sending them to different places. So all of the recruiting and operations and communication was all online with partners internationally. So the transition felt very natural just because I was heavily involved in that.
Yeah. So your in-person role was involving a lot of online interaction in the first place. So it was a natural
Exactly.
progression. Okay, very
Yes.
interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be encouraging for anybody who's listening now who is in an in-person role, who doesn't imagine being able to branch out in that way. But indeed they could. The skills that they're building in that position can certainly be transferable.
Absolutely. I think the thing that really stood out in my application, and this is what the owner later told me and we spoke about, isn't the enthusiasm that I had to provide value. And I remember I actually told him this when he offered me potentially the job. I said, if only I can work for free for 2 weeks, because I've never done this before. Let me work free for 2 weeks. If you think that this is a good match and you see that I'm giving you value, great, hire me full time. Otherwise, I don't want the job. And just seeing that level of enthusiasm, that level of let me show you that I can do this, and
Yeah.
also let me prove to myself that I can do this.
Yeah.
I think so many candidates now come in and they're like, well, I already want benefits, already want salary. But remote work is a different beast. It's a very different kind of ecosystem of value first, of trust, international work, very different mindset. So when people come out of corporate and they're like, well, I expect this long list of things the company is going to provide me, it
Mm.
doesn't exactly work like that very often in the remote space.
Yeah, so, so true. And I really like the fact that you talked even about accepting a small salary. It was a tiny salary, but it was a shift that you wanted to make, and you
Yeah.
accepted that you have to make those sacrifices early on in
Yeah.
order to just make a name for yourself in that remote space. And I've had a
Yeah.
similar path to you, Anna, starting on Upwork. The salaries often are very low, but it's just about getting that chance to work any job, even if it's not necessarily, the kind of work that you do usually, just to get in the space, get a review, and win somebody's confidence. But what a
Absolutely.
great strategy. 2 weeks for free. And then I decide if I actually want to work for you, even.
I'm like, I just want to make sure that I can bring value, you know? But
Yeah.
I love what you said. I mean, when it comes to even Upwork, taking on small jobs,
Yeah.
I actually have a good friend of mine who was working remotely, but she wanted to start her own business and build her own roster of clients.
Mm,
And she was so scared to leave and start that. And she's like, how do I get clients? How am I going to ever do that? I kid
mm.
you not, she built a business that is like with a full team, traveling the world, making incredible money, literally in the span of 12 months. Like just from going from a job to going on Upwork and starting getting clients, it blew my mind and I was so inspired. But I pushed her so much and I believe in remote work. I believe in the remote space, whether you want to do, contractual, whether you want to do full time, the opportunities are there. It's just about the attitude and how you show up to those opportunities.
Absolutely. And providing that value. And yes, perhaps you do have to project yourself, project your personality that much more in order to communicate that enthusiasm
Yeah.
online. But yeah, the value that you provide can be the same or even more than somebody who's in person. So yeah, I'm a big believer in that too. Okay, Anna, really inspirational start to your remote career. That's really great. And your friend as well, 12 months. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and I have so many of those kinds of stories and experiences. So that's why when candidates come to me and they seem very frustrated and they're looking for these, big salaries or these big shifts. And I think there's a huge culture right now, probably with slightly younger generation, where there's a sense that I am owed this or I'm supposed to get this versus sometimes you gotta grind and hustle and work for very little money and barely get by and come out on the other side like really winning.
Yeah. Yes, this is music to my ears, absolutely.
Yeah,
And also not missing the point. I sincerely believe that any job, small or big, you will gain something from it, whether it's
ab-
experience or even something as simple as using a particular software package for a couple of months.
yeah,
That will then propel you to the next job. You can say, I have 3 months experience using that software.
yeah,
But just appreciating that, yes, it's not about being entitled and getting value only from the fact that you've got loads of bonuses and perks. No,
yeah,
you can gain so much more from a job, but it's about changing. your perspective, shifting your perspective a bit.
Absolutely. And as an interesting example, I mentioned on the business side, but even from, hey, I want to go into the remote space, but I've never worked remotely, or maybe I'm just starting my career. How do
Mm.
I even get in? So there's I'm trying to remember the website. I'm blanking out. We'll probably share it afterwards and we can
Yeah,
link it below.
for
But
sure.
it's a really cool platform. I think it's called Academia. Maybe it's Academia, but the platform is apprenticeships for marketing. They have courses that you can take, very quick, easy to apply marketing, specifically marketing courses. And then they place you in apprenticeships. And very often they're little to no pay.
Okay.
But it's real companies bringing you on into their ecosystem with you being able to work under real marketing professionals in, social media, in graphic design, in strategy, like all these different areas, organic, paid. And you do work and hustle for very little, but ultimately within 1 to 2 months, you're coming out of it with the potential of getting a full-time job because these companies might be so impressed with your work that they offer you a job. Or you come out with experience and go into your next role saying, hey, here's all the things I was able to do in these organizations. And I can't tell you how many times I recommended this platform to, people fresh out of college looking to get their start. And a lot of them, the reaction I get is, well, but they're not paying me, or they're not paying enough. And that
Oh,
attitude, it kills me.
what a shame. Yeah.
It
Because
is. Yeah.
what you've just described, this site that we'll confirm later, sounds like an incredible opportunity. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they place you and it's such an amazing platform for marketing professionals or those that want to get into marketing. I believe it's Academium if I'm not. Yes, it's
Academia.
called Academium, Acadium, and it's apprenticeships within companies, marketing specifically roles.
Okay, fantastic. Really good. So yeah, those opportunities are there. And I think that's the funny thing. In in-person work, because traditionally the focus has always been, I guess, going up the rungs of the ladder and getting more responsibility, matched with a big salary, of course, and there's a prestige that comes from that. All of the other benefits and value that those individuals have got from that job are ignored and missed. But they
Absolutely.
are there, but it's not been the focus. And so yeah, if we can switch our mindset when it comes to remote work and give ourselves that opportunity and that freedom by valuing the things that really are going to nurture us as a worker, as a person, then we can really make the most of these great opportunities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's value first in the remote space is my take on it.
Yeah, excellent. So my next question is about the positive aspects of remote working. I mean, I think between the two of us, we could probably talk for the next 24 hours. I mean,
Yes.
can you think of anything maybe that's not obvious? Because obviously you're well and truly embedded in this remote space. Is there an overlooked benefit that maybe that you've noticed amongst your associates?
I believe that being in an industry, because remote work to me, in a way, is also kind of an industry because it's so ahead of so many companies in the sense that it's always tech forward. It's always moving very fast. It's always developing. There's AI, there's these conversations. And I find that that movement isn't as fast in these like traditional in-person positions because when you're online, when you're remote, you have to be staying on top of trends. You have to be more communicative. You have to be moving along with the progression. And I think a lot of people don't realize how fast the remote space moves. And the benefit of that is that you are ahead of the curve. You get to see and be part of a movement that is so ahead of its time. And not just from a work perspective, but even from a lifestyle perspective. I mean, I'm always following the development of digital nomad visas, globalization, how nomads are now creating whole cities. Have you heard of this? They are
Yeah.
they are creating like online cities or
Yeah,
something.
nomad zones. Yeah.
Nomad cities. I mean, it is insane. And the progression, they're so ahead. These companies that are doing this remote work, they are so ahead. They're so tech forward. And it's incredible to be part of that and stay ahead of that. I'm so inspired by it constantly on a daily basis. And I don't think a lot of people who are in the office, they're very limited to whether it's a local business or it's more of a corporate vibe. I think
Mm.
they don't get to see or be part of that movement as much as we are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's interacting with society at large. That's what inspires me, the opportunities that the next generation has moving forward, that they could potentially live a digital nomad lifestyle right from the beginning, all the while developing their career. It's not impossible. You're not opting out of progressing. You're opting in actually to live a life that suits you better and broadening your horizons, as you say, by interacting with all kinds of people all over the world.
Yeah, I want to add to this too that I think the biggest takeaway for me with remote work is life design, is being to truly have the ability to create the life that you want by your rules. And I know that sounds a bit far-fetched, but I truly believe remote work gives you the opportunity to work with people in places you never would have imagined, to travel to places you never would have thought, and to really experience the world as much smaller than we think. Because once you start being part of this experience of this like online work and traveling, all of a sudden the conferences, you see similar faces, you start getting to know who's running what, and it's all cross borders, and all of a sudden the world seems so connected and so small. You walk into, I don't know, I've done this before, into a spa in Mexico, in Playa. I meet a friend, what are you doing? We just saw each other in Spain. And then like, and it's like that, whether wherever I've traveled, I would sometimes walk down a street of just a popular place and
Yeah.
meet people in completely different continents, just casually.
That's
That
crazy.
it's very cool to be part of this movement in that sense
Yeah.
that you just feel so connected. And I don't think many people realize what an incredible experience remote work is and the opportunities it really opens up.
It's true because often the drawbacks that are talked about when it comes to remote work are isolation and feeling lonely. But the freedom that comes with remote work allows you, like you say, to visit all kinds of places and to cross paths because you're both making the most of that freedom. So yeah, that's a funny way of looking at it, but especially if we have similar interests, then yeah, why not? It's likely that you're going to bump into somebody.
And I've made friends all over the world. So now I can practically go to most big cities, and I have friends in London, and I have friends in Mexico, and I have friends in Toronto, and I'm no longer going anywhere without knowing someone. I know someone no matter where I'm going.
So nice, so nice.
It's a
Yeah.
cool experience.
For sure. So, obviously, you're advising a lot of candidates in view of working remotely.
Yep.
What are some of the challenges that you coach people through?
There's quite a number. And to clarify, we've done a few different projects for candidates. We do have like a Slack community that's free for candidates where we're constantly providing advice and guidance. We sometimes do roast resumes, which where I do lives talking about some of the biggest challenges and why candidates are facing these challenges when it comes to remote work. I would say one of the biggest issues and challenges I see right now in the remote space is that there is a huge gap on both sides in the sense that clients and companies are saying there's not enough good candidates out there. And then there's all these candidates without a job. And that gap is insane because you have so many good people out there and then there's so many amazing jobs. And I do think it's coming from a shift of how, one, how popular remote work has become. So now there's so many more applications. If
Sure.
you think 20 years ago, you apply to a job in a city, there's no way there's going to be 1,000 people applying to that job, right? And I do think that's a huge shift. All of a sudden, all of these globalization when it comes to work has caused so many doors to open up, so many candidates to come in, and that's causing a bit of okay, what do we do? And it's pushed a lot of companies to now become a lot more narrow in their requirements, meaning they want this. Like the list becomes really complex. There's all these complicated hiring processes. And so one thing that I talk about with candidates is, well, because this shift has happened on the client side, this is what has to change on the candidate side. And candidates have not adapted. I will be very honest about this.
Right.
What they have not adapted to is understanding how to promote themselves and position themselves from a place of I'm an expert at X. Candidates are still using the mindset that worked 10, 20 years ago. Oh, I have done all these different things, so that way I'm great because let's say, I'm a digital marketing manager, or I'm a digital marketing professional. If you say that nowadays, that means nothing.
Yeah.
That means absolutely nothing. Tell me that you are a PPC manager for Amazon. Tell me that you are a TikTok social marketing expert. You tell me you run ads on Google. Like, tell me the very thing that you are the best at and write your resume, your LinkedIn, your portfolio, everything around that one area. And that's going to really put you in that 5-10%. And I think that's a huge part of what I teach candidates is how do you adjust your materials to be so targeted that you will then really stand out in a crowd of 1,000 digital marketing professionals.
Yes. Digital marketing professionals, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to speak negatively, but yeah, technically, if you've got a few social media accounts going, you could put yourself forward as that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if that's what the employers think, and you haven't indicated that you're special, like you said, really showing that you're providing a certain niche of work, then yeah, you can be overlooked. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other aspect here is industry. So I think a lot of candidates, again, the mindset is very 10, 20 years ago where, hey, I can do so many different industries. Companies don't care. All they want to know is that you are an expert in their industry. And if you say I'm agnostic, that's it. Delete. Like the
Next.
resume is getting deleted if you say you're industry agnostic. It
Yeah.
doesn't work anymore. And so that's another huge, huge mistake I see candidates do, not picking like pick two niches, pick the most relevant, most recent from the last 5 years, your most 2, 3 max recent industries where you truly have expertise. This will put a candidate in the top 5% of all applications that they send across.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Like you say, if you choose a niche that you're actually passionate about as well, that's what they want to see. They want to see that you're invested in the mission of the company, no
Yeah.
matter what job you're doing. I think that's important because sometimes I think if you're not a manager or a director, you can fall into the trap of thinking, well, it doesn't matter what I think about the mission. I'm just number crunching or sending emails. But I think it is important that the numbers on the page or the text on the screen are something that you actually believe in. I've had that
Yeah.
experience myself working in accounting. You might say that accounting was just numbers, but actually, when the numbers mean something that I'm interested in, I enjoy the job so much better.
Yes.
So, yeah, finding that niche, not being agnostic, okay, and
Mhm.
being an expert at one or two things rather than 15 different things.
Even if you are an expert at 15 things, the best way to sell yourself is honestly to mention the 1 or 2 skills and focus on the 1 to 2 skills that companies are looking for. Because right now, companies are niching down in terms of what they're hiring for. So doing that as a candidate is going to make them stand out so much more. And I will say one last thing here that I think 99% of candidates don't do, but makes a huge difference is adding achievements or accomplishments, metrics around achievements or accomplishments across your career, putting that instead of your core competency list.
Right.
Put the core competency list to the end, summary,
Okay.
achievements, work experience, right? And I talk about that a lot. I say, pick your 4 or 5 data-driven career accomplishments. And it doesn't matter whether you're in sales, marketing, operations, no matter what position you are doing, you can absolutely add some very specific things around accomplishments or achievements. What have you done within organizations? And I'll give you a really interesting example. Let's say you're in a designer. What is a
Yeah.
designer accomplishing in terms of numbers, right? But
Yeah.
you can talk about volume. You can talk about the volume of your design. How many pieces of design were you putting out on a weekly or monthly basis? That's a huge deal. Or
Interesting.
which platforms were your designs going out on, right? Or if you were part of a content or creative team, how did those ads perform on the graphics that you were creating? I think a lot of people don't realize how many numbers you can extract from a role that's not sales and numbers driven or like a
Yeah.
data role. every single position, you can always extract some sort of data, whether that's volume related or platforms related, something specific. And
Mhm.
that can make or break an application so much. And 99% of candidates do not do this.
No, no, for sure. I don't think I've ever done that. I'm thinking, thinking back. That's
Yep.
amazing. The finding something tangible behind the job title.
Yeah.
Because we don't just want to hide behind a job title.
Because what's going to set you
Yeah.
apart from 1,000 candidates? Well,
Yeah.
the data will set you apart. But if you
Mhm.
use the same keywords, I'm hardworking, I'm diligent, I've done all these different kinds of marketing, I was creating reports, all this generic stuff gets people nowhere. If you want
Mhm.
to succeed in remote work where you are competing against thousands and thousands of applications, those three things I mentioned, honestly, can make a huge difference.
Fantastic. Golden advice for sure. And thinking about those metrics, I guess, helps the employer then to imagine the candidate in the role already. So I guess, like you
Absolutely.
said, the numbers that could be involved in a designer's job. So
Hmm.
they say that they've produced X number of design pieces. So
Hmm.
straight away the employer says, "Oh, right, I can imagine her over there
Hmm.
providing X amount of design pieces in
Or
a
you're
week or something."
answering the question. Like a lot of companies now are looking at volume. We were hiring for an AI video creator. Candidate comes in, and amazing candidate, amazing client,
Mm.
everything's great. First week starts, and then she's like, "Oh no, I didn't realize I had to make over 20 different video pieces every single week." Right? And so
Yeah.
it goes to show that even if you have all the right experience and the right industry and you fit the role, talking about volume output can make a huge difference. And that's across everything: supply chain, e-com stuff, ops, project management, account management. Are you
Mm.
managing 5 clients or 500 clients? That's a huge difference. And
Same job title, but
mhm.
different volume. Wow.
Absolutely. Same industry, same job title, same responsibility. Like everything's identical. All of a sudden, though, you have been managing 5, 10 clients and you just got 100.
Wow. Incredible. So it's a protection for the candidate in a way to not
Yeah.
find themselves in a job where the volume is not where they're used to or overwhelming.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
that's going to filter them out for the company as well, but it's going to be also great for the companies that want it. I'll give you an amazing example here. Think about paid media. We have some companies, marketing agencies who want small budgets. They're like, we don't need a candidate who's managing 50,000 per month budgets or $100,000 budgets. We need a candidate who knows what to do with $2,000 to $3,000 budgets for our
Mm.
clients, and then vice versa, right? So that volume, less isn't worse. Like it
Sure.
just depends on the company and the requirements. So putting in that volume output is also going to relate to the company that it's relevant for.
Yeah, it's like I guess it's a way of defining what the value is that you're offering and what they're looking for. And
Absolutely.
like you said, it's not going to be the same for every company, even
Mhm.
if it's within the same industries. Amazing, Anna. Golden advice, really. I'm not surprised, but yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that's in terms of the application then. You've given us loads of great advice about the application process. What about when somebody is in a remote role? How would you advise them to behave in order to be effective working remotely?
I really believe over communication is one of the most understated and underrepresented talked about topics when it comes to remote work. Some of the biggest issues and struggles in the remote space is not communicating enough. And I'm talking not just from the candidate perspective, but from the employer perspective as well. And one of the things I talk about is with candidates, be your own advocate, like speak up, push back, ask a lot of questions. One of the things that made me successful in a way I didn't realize until later is I asked a lot of questions, but that's what made me successful at providing the value for the person. Because by understanding what somebody truly is desiring, what the outcome they want, I'm able to then work on that. And I think a lot of candidates find themselves in places where they're, Anna, I'm so burnt out. I work 60-hour weeks. I'm so underappreciated. And then as soon as I hear those words, that to me is the red flag of, but are you delivering the work that's actually expected and actually will be valued? Because
Mm.
just because you're putting in a lot of time and effort doesn't mean that you're actually going to be valued for that effort. And I think it's different when you're in the office because you can kind of have a better understanding of your management, of your team, of expectations. It's a bit more fresh because it's happening in real time. When you're working remote, and especially with busy founders or busy managers, you don't get enough face time. You get an hour a week and you just feel like something's off, something's not clicking, and you don't know why. And so, even a recent situation, we hired an amazing candidate. The employer was over the moon. They're a couple weeks in. She's a bit uncomfortable. Something's not working. She doesn't know what's going on. So, she's kind of like retracting a bit, trying to do what's right, but not sure what it is. The client's saying she's not stepping up, she's not asking questions. So, we send both of them a very serious email. And we're like, girl, you push back. No, but seriously, we wrote her an email. We're like, you need to step up. You need to demand what you need to actually succeed in your role. You got to tell them what you need. You got to ask your questions. You've got to step up and speak up for yourself. And as soon as that happened, it was like overnight. They're like, she's amazing. And we don't know what happened. Everything's great now.
Instant transformation.
But
Amazing.
that is one of the most underestimated, powerful tools when it comes to remote work. Over communicate, check in, follow up, ask what does success look like for their position? Like
Mm,
at the end of this month, what can I do that at the end of this month you're going to say that was incredible, right? And
mm.
asking that question, most people don't do that.
So true. I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes where you feel like you should know everything without asking, and that's the mark of success, which is so silly.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
just
Or
requires a
you'll
bit
be
of,
told what to do, right? Like
yeah,
people tell me what I need to do.
exactly. Or maybe I should know this already. And so if I reveal that I don't know already, maybe they think I'm not right for this job, which is so silly. The
Yeah.
humility of just asking, what do I need to do, equips you with the information that you need to do the job. It's, yeah, it seems obvious, but it's hard.
I think a lot of companies, whether small or large, don't do a good job in successfully articulating what success looks like for the role. They've hired for responsibilities, but not truly defined what success looks like in a metric sense or the output sense. So, for example, if I hire somebody and say, "Hey, you're supposed to run our social media." The candidate runs social media for a whole month. They're like, "Well, this is horrible, but I was doing the job." No, but you expected that they were going to have some sort of output, hence you are disappointed. But did you communicate what that output was supposed to be? And did the candidate ask?
Yeah, so true. And I like the idea of asking the question, what does success look like for you? Because I think that's a common question that we're often pushed to ask at the interview stage. What kind of person are you looking for in the role? What are the qualities you're looking for? But yeah, if you stop asking those questions, then how are you going to grow? I've never thought about that. But yeah, asking month or month. Okay,
Yeah.
new month, new goals. What do you want from me?
Exactly. And I think here there's another aspect and another layer to it. If you are checking in with the company or the manager on what success looks like and then delivering on that, they now perceive that value very highly because they've told you this is what they want. And then all of a sudden, even if you're working 20, 30 hours, but you're delivering exactly what they wanted, you will get that promotion. You will get that bonus. You're gonna get that raise. You're gonna get all the things. You're gonna get that referral because at the end of the day, you've asked the question and then you've delivered on what they wanted. And I think this is the part where a lot of companies and candidates get it wrong. They're time tracking, they're talking about responsibilities, but not enough people are talking about what does actual success look like on a regular basis and then delivering on that specific thing rather than just following a list of responsibilities.
Yeah, I think, like you say, certain people feel burnt out, feel swamped by their role, and they struggle to prioritize. And I guess the best way to prioritize is to find out what the priorities of your director actually are. I guess that's what you've just
Exactly.
explained.
We're not mind readers over
No,
here.
exactly. We're not supposed to be. And yeah, wading through a load of tasks and not knowing which one to do first, why
Yeah.
put yourself in that situation if you can ask the very person who's directing things what the priority should be? Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it's a way of
Yeah.
saying, where are the goalposts, please? Okay,
Absolutely.
that's where I'm
And
scoring.
I think a lot of candidates try to guess and they overwork themselves trying to please their company and then they feel burnt out and under like not respected, underappreciated. And I hear this a lot, but I worked so hard. And it's horrible that I have to say this, but those companies don't care how much you work. Like they genuinely don't care if you worked hard or really tried. Like that's not really what business is about. Business is about objectives and whether you meet those objectives or not. And for the most part, companies just want the output. You just have to figure out what the output is, and then you hack the system pretty much.
Really good. Oh, so much great advice, Anna. Fantastic. Really, really good. Okay, so as you know, this is the Remotely Interested podcast about remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. So much great advice already. So now let's learn something more from you with the Mosaic Gold surprise question. So here we are. Let's shake this about. It is random. Okay. What do we have here? Okay, Anna, how do you stay motivated when things get tough, whether it's a work project or a travel issue?
I love this because it's in our name. Remotivate. How do I stay motivated?
This was random, everybody. You saw. I looked away.
Yeah, how do I stay motivated
Oh, I've thrown it away.
when
When things get tough,
when things get tough? Yeah.
whether it's a work project and or a travel issue.
For me personally, it comes down to balance. I know that sounds a bit bland, but I will explain
Mhm,
in
mhm.
specifics. The more intense my work life gets, for example, now is definitely that time,
Okay.
the more effort I expand into areas that really fuel me and feed me. And I'll give you the example here. For example, running in the morning, walking to the beach, seeing a friend. Like today, this morning, I just messaged a friend, said, hey, let's go get a coffee. We hung out, had a little chat. It's only 30, 40 minutes, but already I'm so much more fueled for the day. Working out, I do a plenty of exercise. Uh, Downloaded an amazing book that I was like a fantasy novel, watched
Okay.
a silly show that makes me laugh, made a meal because I love cooking, sang a song. And I'm giving those examples because those are things that feed my soul. But I think a lot of people think if I work harder, that means I feed myself less. Like I deprioritize the things that like hobbies, the things that fuel me. I find it's the opposite. The more I work, the more fuel I need, meaning that I need to spend more energy in giving myself the things that will truly light me up and re-energize me for work and putting back into work and all of that. So that's a big thing for me is staying really conscious of the balance of more work means a little bit more play sometimes or more giving back to myself and being really conscious of doing activities and making time for those activities, even in the busiest seasons of my life.
Absolutely. And it ties in with what you said earlier about life design. You
Yes.
want to make the most of that freedom. And you can easily fall into that trap of using the freedom to overwork and over earn and
Yeah.
then think, I'll rest once I'm a
I'm
billionaire."
done. Yeah, I think that is a trap and
Yeah.
that a lot of people fall into. That doesn't go to say I work 12, 14-hour days. Like today is definitely going to be one of those. And tomorrow is probably going to be another. I have 3 new projects launching in the
Oh my
next two
word.
weeks. And at the same time, I'm being so conscious of, hey, I'm going to go to that game night. I'm going to make that breakfast. I'm going to take 30 minutes to watch a show. Like, I really, really focus on how do I feed my soul. So, so important.
Very important. Thank you for that. Where can people find you, Anna? And do you have any news about these 3 projects coming up, or where can we find out more about them?
Oh, yes. So the best place to find me would be LinkedIn. So I hope we can put my name somewhere because my last name's complicated. We'll put that link somewhere.
For
Uh,
sure.
Let'sremotivate.com is our agency website. For candidates looking for a job, we do have remotivatejobs.com. It's our job board. And then, of course, our LinkedIn page, Remotivate LinkedIn page, has so much free content and jobs and information for candidates in general that they can follow, and my personal LinkedIn for more of the business side of things. In relation to projects, there's quite a few things going on, but on the topic of remote work, I do want to share one project we're working on that I think is so special. We're actually building, and the next month or so, it's going to go live, a something called Remotivate News. It's going to be a media website dedicated to talking about and launching news around remote work. And there's not really anything like that right now. We want to be the #1 media company on remote news.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're building that out right now. I've never built a media company before, but here I go.
Yay.
It's been a dream of mine for a very long time to share and spread the news of remote work and be part of that movement, like information. We did start last year doing a lot of content. So now I'm doing socials on TikTok and YouTube and Reels, which go out every single day. And it is very much reporting on latest news and how that all ties back to remote work. But we're just taking that next step of going not just social postings, but actually, hey, let's make a media company and a media website that's going to be dedicated to reporting and journalism related to remote work. So that's something I'm actually working on.
Incredible. Hey, everybody, you heard it here first. Well, maybe not first, but you heard it here.
First, definitely
Oh,
first.
it is
I
first.
haven't shared this publicly yet. So
It's the scoop. Woohoo. Fantastic. Okay, well, all of those links will be in the show notes. And very exciting times then, for sure.
yeah,
For
definitely.
sure. Okay.
We're going to focus on two things. One, it's going to be news. And when I say news, I'm not just speaking about like return to office, all of that, but it's sometimes what is happening in larger companies and how does that translate to remote work? How does that translate to the remote space? And what does that mean for remote space when there's changes in tech and AI? And it doesn't seem obvious. Okay, something's happening AI. How does that tie into remote work? But it does. All of
Yeah.
these things do affect remote work, whether that's geopolitical, whether that's change where people are now massively leaving the United States to Europe, how that's going to affect remote work, right? There's so many of these topics. It's just nobody's sharing them through the prism and through the light of remote work and how that's translating. So a lot of it's going to be short, quick news, really talking through the lens of how it affects remote work. And then, of course, more evergreen content around the best practices around hiring, best practices around just like remote work hygiene from both a candidate and a client perspective. So long form content will be available there too, but we definitely want it to be a very much news type of website.
Okay, super interesting. And yeah, through the lens of remote working, rather than a remote work just being mentioned as, oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
this weird thing that some people do in the 21st century. That's going to
Like,
be
oh,
really interesting.
yeah, it's like this company's hiring remote, this company's hiring remote, oh, this company's going back to the office. And I'm like, can we talk about something else?
Yeah, yeah. It's one or the other, guys. Get over it.
Like
Yeah.
there's more to it. There's AI and tech and people in
Yeah.
business and even, certain figures in like the let's say in OpenAI, it's like somebody's being hired. For example, the previous CEO of Slack was recruited by OpenAI, and how does that affect us, right? And what does that mean for remote work? And seeing it from that perspective rather than just this company's hiring or this company's firing is going to be really
Yeah.
interesting.
Really interesting. Fantastic. So that's launching in the next couple of weeks, did you say?
Yeah, it should be in the next, I would say realistically, we'll probably launch it by mid to end of February. That's
Yeah.
kind of the goal, because we are working on a few other projects, remote specific, but that one's the most exciting one for sure.
Well, fantastic. Anna, I knew this conversation would be amazing and it has not disappointed. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure you've got a few hours to go post interview.
Many to go. But Mary, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate it. Also wishing you the best too with future interviews.
Thank you so much. Okay, take care. Bye.
Ciao.
Enthusiasm, willingness to learn, and proving impact quickly matter far more than titles, perks, or immediate salary. Remote work isn't about what you're owed, it's about what you can deliver. In a crowded remote job market, Candidates who clearly define what they are an expert at in specific skills and industries stand out. One of the biggest challenges in remote roles is misalignment, not lack of effort. So therefore, ask questions early and often, clarify what success looks like on a regular basis, and advocate for what you need in order to do your job well. Delivering the right outcomes is essential, and that can only happen when expectations are explicitly discussed. So, if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.